So I'm monitoring LinkedIn, so I'll see all the questions and everything else, Jen.
Okay.
And I like the questions. That's my favorite part. Some people ask stuff. We've had people from, like yesterday, Nigeria, Ghana.
Wow.
They were asking a ton. Oh, good. We are live. I love it. So I'm going to share this real quick. Go. Okay. Boom. I never mute myself when I should. There we go. Hi, everybody. As usual, I didn't mute myself. Good to see you. Jump on in. As usual, smack the emoji buttons that are all over the place there. Share the live link with your friends. If you have comments or questions, ask them because I will get to them. What else? Tell us where you're from, what part of the world you're in. I look like a midget today. Why is that? I'm very small. And yes, I am still broadcasting live from my daughter's bedroom. It is not my fault with this internet connection. Again, I blame LinkedIn and LinkedIn Live. It's so annoying. But Jen, you look great, by the way, just so you know.
Thank you.
You look fantastic.
Thank you very much. I worked on that for you this morning. This is 10 times better than the usual work from home look.
Thank you. I showered, not that you would know it from the video feed. I tried to brush my hair, and my daughter did not make her bed. It's still a mess. I'm looking at it right now. Unbelievable. Lack of effort. All right. We have folks dialing in. Mel from London. Glad you are here. Siddharhar, shocking, is on. He's been on every single show. Love that guy.
Fanboy.
If you have questions, every time. He's always on. So again, folks, if you have questions, let me know. Kurt giving me a hard time, telling me I'm using dial-up. Kurt, I am plugged into my router, dude. Don't judge me. I don't know what is. Oh, I say that. My router died.
Oh.
That's horrible. Yeah, that would explain why my feed is so god-awful today. Yeah, go figure. No clue why it's not working. But that explains why I look horrible, because I am coming off of Wi-Fi from Florida, which we all know is horrible. Like everything else in Florida lately. Go figure. No clue why it's not working, but that's my life in a nutshell. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining. Like I said, questions, everything else, let me know. Sharon from Colorado. Sharon Lee. I love it. How you doing, Sharon? She's with First Bank of Colorado. We've talked quite a few times. I'm so glad you could join. And Sam is on CompuServe. Again, the abuse that I'm getting, and yes, I know I'm crooked. Everybody, be nice to me. With that, we're going to start. Everybody's being mean to me today. It's not fair. Everybody, let's get going. All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 17th episode. All right. Do you lose me? Please tell me I'm not gone. I heard an uh-oh. Can you guys still hear me? Oh, excellent. I heard an uh-oh. I get terrified whenever I hear an uh-oh, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 17th episode of FinTech Insider, the breakfast show. This is the show coming to you from the folks at 11FS. Oh, well, hey, it sounds like we lost Jennifer. We'll get her back. Everybody, I'm Sam Maul. I'm the Managing Director of North America. I'm your host for this morning's show. We are going to have a guest on. Evidently, we just lost her, but she'll dial back in. I'm not worried about it. We love hearing from you all. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for being on every week. We really do appreciate it. Today, when she's able to get back in, we're going to be joined by Jennifer Tescher. She's the president and CEO of the Financial Health Network based out of Chicago. It's an organization that works toward better financial health. Much more. And on my notes, I'm supposed to thank Jennifer for being here. I have a producer in my ear that will tell me when she's able to get back on, and we'll go from there. You got to love technical difficulties. So while we're waiting for Jennifer, you're going to be stuck with me. So, that's life. But you all are dialed in anyway, so let's go. So before we begin today's discussion, I want to kind of level set for everybody on what's happening in the U.S. due to the impact of COVID-19. And I can summarize this in three staggering numbers. Three staggering numbers as of this morning. In the U.S., we have almost 50,000 deaths that have been attributed to COVID-19. We will go above 50,000 today, probably around 51,000. 26 million people have filed for unemployment in the US. 26 million, 4.4 million reported this morning. All of that has happened in 5 weeks. So I'm going to start the show off on a very depressing note. So roughly about 50,000 dead, 26 million unemployed in just under 5 weeks. That is staggering. I think it's safe to say that globally, we've never been through anything like this. Honestly, in the US, we've never had anything like this. Alexander Gillette, thank you for telling me I look great today. By the way, that's what happens when your router actually decides to kick in. And hey, everybody, glad that you're here. Like I said, we are going to have a guest. We are going to have Jennifer Tescher on. She's having technical difficulties. And Jen is here. My producer just told me. So this is me. If you've ever seen the show Newsweek or whatever the hell it is on HBO, this is just like it. This stuff happens, and you're expecting the news anchor to be really smooth and everything else. I'm not a news anchor, so too damn bad. Jennifer, thrilled to have you back.
Your picture's looking much better now, Sam.
Thank you. I'm proud of that. I've already given a brief introduction to everybody. I kind of summarized the state.
Thank you.
Where we're at in the U.S. and talked a little bit about the financial health work. So Jen, and never call her Jenny. Jennifer's good. Jen is good. Never Jenny. Do you mind telling everybody what the Financial Health Network is, what you do, what's your key areas you focus in on?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Sam. I always love talking to you. And I like that you start your morning show like at around brunch time, which is perfect.
That's when I get out of bed.
Morning person. So I'm the CEO and the founder of the Financial Health Network, which until a year ago was the Center for Financial Services Innovation, or CFSI. So we've been around 16 years. We're the leading experts on consumer financial health, and we are a resource to industry leaders, innovators, policymakers who are working to improve the financial health of their customers, their employees, and their communities. We run a membership network. We do some consulting. We do a tremendous amount of consumer research to really understand the people's real financial lives. We also invest in early stage fintech companies that are tackling critical consumer financial health challenges. So really, everything we're doing is in service of our mission of financial health for all.
Can you do me a favor? This is why I love Jen, everybody. You said that you focus in on the real financial lives of consumers. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, I say that because most of the time, maybe not right now, but most of the time, we're kind of focusing on the wrong numbers. We're focusing on, as a country, averages, annuals, but you have to disaggregate the data to really understand what's happening in people's lives. And you have to go beyond the top line statistics to understand the nuance. People don't live year to year, they live day to day. We're certainly seeing that right now. But when you look at someone's annual tax return, maybe they look like their expenses and their income nets out. But on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis, that's often not the case. And that's where people are getting tripped up. So we spend a lot of time trying to remind people of experiences that they may have never had themselves or may not be familiar with. We really are always helping put people in the shoes of others.
So I'm giving you a softball question right now, but how would you describe the overall state of financial health in America today?
Poor.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no real words for it. And I feel like, I don't think very many people, if any people, listening to this were alive during the Great Depression. I would hazard a guess. Certainly not alive during the 1918 swine flu pandemic. And so I think it's incredibly difficult for us to understand, to grasp the enormity of the economic challenge that's been wrought by coronavirus and the need to shelter in place. And I think for me, the image that helps to get inside the balloon I live in, the bubble, Are those images of the cars waiting in lines miles long to get food. That's the closest I can get to having some sense of just how challenged people are right now. And, if I thought, another couple of weeks, we'll be done, everything's open again, great. Like, then it would be a temporary blip, but I don't think this is a blip. And, more unemployed today, 26 million people in what is it, 5 weeks?
Yeah.
It's just, we think we lived through the Great Recession, the financial crisis. This is far more significant than that.
Yeah, I want folks to consider this, okay? Because remember, we really can't look back at any other event and say, well, this is what it's like. This isn't 2008. This isn't 1918, right? This isn't 2000, and this isn't the dot-com crash. This is unique, and we're learning literally day by day of the impacts. So to put this in perspective, a few weeks ago, Goldman Sachs' prediction of the impact of COVID was 18 million to 28 million jobs lost by the end of June. JPMC forecast was 21 to 32 million jobs by the end of June. It's April, folks, and we're at 26 million, and that's. And Jen, this, that's actually not the real number that we're looking at when it comes to unemployment. Jane Barrett, I love that Jane Barrett's on.
Hey, Jane.
We all love Jane. Jane asked, what's your view on the real unemployment numbers? The people who don't file include gig workers, undocumented people, folks who don't know how to apply, et cetera. So those that aren't within the system, if you had to make an estimate.
What's interesting about that is, for the first time, they have been invited now to apply. I think you're right that many of them don't know about it, don't know how to do it. I suspect some of the unemployment numbers we're seeing include some of that group. But the other reason why the unemployment numbers are actually lower than we realize is states can't keep up with the volume.
Yeah.
So there are people trying to file who can't. Tons of people who are trying to file. That's a really scary thought.
I live in Florida. I make this comment every time. So everybody, go light a candle, raise a glass, do what you have to do, pray for me. But I live in Florida. The unemployment system in Florida, a lot of articles written about this, whether it was purposely built to be absolute shit. Yes, I swore. Or not, we can go down that road. I can tell you it is abysmal system. That people cannot get on. And this is as a father of daughters who are trying to apply, who've been impacted, and friends. Same in Georgia, just struggling. The systems are, we talk about banking systems being old and legacy and everything else. The government systems, they're not set up for this. I mean, I've talked with Jill Castillo, I talked with Kurt, who's on right now at Tab Bank. The E-Trans system, you want to know why a lot of small businesses haven't been able to get loans or get into it. The very system you need to use to get on is just archaic.
Yeah, and frankly, even if the system were state of the art, this is
the volume
that they just haven't built for. And why would they? I mean, we'll think twice about that now. Talk about black swan events, right? And particularly with climate change, which may seem out of left field, but the notion of the 100-year flood is not a 100-year flood anymore. It's far more frequent. And so, as we think about recovery and rebuilding, we are going to, I think, have to be thinking differently about redundancy and scale, and build for what would have been the 100-year flood and consider it's going to happen every 10 years.
Yeah, that concept of once in a generation events, we know. Both 2008 and this, and also 20 years of war, and we can go on and on. It was cute to give millennials a hard time. I think everybody can shut up now about that. Kurt raises a great question for you, Jen. He's curious your thoughts about breaking the tyranny of batch processing. Preach, brother. Monthly rent, monthly debt payments, biweekly pay. Those cash gaps are what cause overdrafts and payday loans.
Totally. I think my rallying cry is twofold. It's get rid of checks and make payments faster.
Amen.
Most of the time we just talk about make payments faster. But can we please get rid of checks now? Like, seriously.
Yeah. The fact that we still have, don't we have to issue something like 80 million checks eventually?
Well, what's interesting is talking about stimulus money and getting it out to people.
Mm-hmm.
We spent a lot of time thinking about this issue and working on it. And the government has done one thing extremely well in the last 10 years, and that's get federal benefit recipients, people who get Social Security, who get disability, who get like veterans kind of retirement payments, get them off of monthly checks and get them into direct deposit, either into their own bank account or into a prepaid card called Direct Express. They have cut the check volume down to virtually nothing. I think they went from something like 84% of federal benefit recipients getting direct deposit to 98%. Wow. That's a huge success. And only 4.5 million of them are actually using the Direct Express card. A lot of that was just converting folks to a different way of getting their money. But now think about it this way. Those IRS refunds, hopefully, that we tend to get once a year, about half of those are still checks.
Yeah.
When you're getting a monthly benefit payment, the economics of providing someone with a debit card makes sense. When you're paying them once a year, it's been harder for the government to get there and say, let's just give people who don't have a bank account Direct Express. And what I'm really excited about, sort of a silver lining from this crisis, is when they said, oh, if you're a federal benefit recipient, no problem, you don't have to file a tax return to get your aid money. They also said, yes, and if you don't have a bank account listed and you're using Direct Express, we'll push the money through Direct Express. That's the very, very first time that non-benefit payments will be pushed through Direct Express. Wow. And I'm really hopeful that that means that when this crisis is over, we can finally get rid of at least the federal IRS checks.
I'll tell you, Jen, one thing I read this morning, right before we went to get in, I was reading the Wall Street Journal, and some things never seem to change. So there's an article today that notes the COVID crisis has made America's biggest banks bigger. Some 1 trillion, it's with the T, folks, 1 trillion in deposits has flooded in during Q1 of 2020, half of that going to the top 4 banks in the US. Not going to go there. What I am going to do is raise a question that Alex Gillette has asked. He said that, Jen, you mentioned that banks are going to be the most highly impacted. Will reservations for credit losses help mitigate the impact when consumers cannot pay back their loans, pay credit cards, mortgages, etc., once forbearance is concluded?
That's the coming tsunami.
Oh my God, it is. Yeah.
If you're one of these people who continues to think that we're just going to reopen right away, like the governor of Georgia, maybe you can tell yourself a story that people will be able to repay when the forbearance period is up, but that is just not going to happen. And so this is where it's going to start to look like 08, 09, less a foreclosure crisis, I think, but more of we're going to have to do a ton of modifications. Yeah. We have to start modifying and adding those 3 months or 6 months to the end of the mortgage. Because the last thing we need right now is putting people out on the street when they're supposed to be staying at home in the first place. So I think that the financial services industry is a little bit of a lagger in terms of how they'll experience the pain. Mm-hmm. Right first is hospitals and airlines and restaurants, but banks are coming. And I think the early folks feeling pain in financial services are the online lenders. Yeah. Lending Club's announcement, painful. Just the other day, 30% cut to staff. Steve Alaka is gone. Great for Scott Sanborn, showing real leadership, cutting his own salary of the leadership. Cabbage was very early. Yeah. Shed. I don't know what's going to be left standing there when we're done.
Cabbage was about 90% of the team furloughed, and doing everything they can to bring employees back on. But yeah, I'd agree with you. Suena, and man, Suena, tell me how to say your name. Email me, ping me, tell me how to say it phonetically, because she's on every time and I slaughter her name every time. She's the head of data acquisition at M Science. Always ask great questions. And this kind of ties into what we were just talking about, but it's, can you shed some light on how the rest of the year looks for us? What is a recovery period? A realistic view. Businesses are planning to reopen slowly, not in Georgia and Florida, in a staggering fashion. So can we expect the unemployment rate to go down? That is a very good question. Doing predictions is really hard. I will go on a limb and say this is going to be a long ass recovery.
Yeah, Sam's braver than I am in terms of willing to just, make random predictions.
That's right out there.
Like we did last night. But yes, I'm in the camp that this is going to be long. And I read an interesting piece yesterday in Fortune magazine, created a few years ago, a CEO initiative. And it was really early in the trend towards role of the corporation and rethinking purpose. And that group got together the other day to talk about what's going on. And those CEOs were not rushing to open anytime soon. We're going to not really worry about what the government was saying. They were going to do it on their own terms, which in many cases meant after government says it's going to be safe.
Yeah.
And for many of them, they thought maybe end of this year, maybe not till next year in some cases. And then there were lots of others who were talking about how, this remote thing is kind of working for some people, at least. We're going to have to think very differently about our policies around remote work. So I don't have a magic wand. I can't predict, but I don't think it's coming this year.
Yeah.
Also, the other thing that I mentioned last night, Sam, that's worth mentioning again is think about it. If you're a restaurant and now you're told that you can reopen, but you have to practice social distancing. So you have to move your tables apart and you have to move your work staff apart. You can serve fewer diners. So you're going to make less money. So there are some small businesses that's just not going to work. The business model isn't going to work and they're not going to reopen, even if they can reopen to partial business. So I just don't think we've even been able to think through the impact of the changes that we're going to need to make in the way we do business if for at least the next year to 18 months, if not longer. And it's going to throw us into real chaos around what does growth even look like? Should growth be the primary goal, and how do we even estimate what that looks like?
Yeah, there's two videos that when we're done, I'll send out to everybody who's listening on this on the 11FS channel. So one was an interview with the mayor of Las Vegas last night on CNN.
That was really something.
The best thing about that interview was Saturday Night Live literally doesn't need to write anything. They just need to word for word do that interview with the mayor of Vegas saying how she wants to open up casinos right now with zero plan on how that manages, because the market will take care of it. I'll set that to a side. The other one is a viral video of some New York dude going off on the PPP program and loans and the stimulus checks and everything else, which I think you pretty much summarized all the frustration we have in the U.S. right now around that. I just wanted to point those out because I found them to be hilarious, and also they pretty much demonstrate what's going on in the U.S. right now. We have another really good question from Siddharth that I want to ask you. But before I do that, I want to throw out another interesting thing I read this morning, which really hit me hard. It's around minorities in the U.S. In the U.S. have been heavily impacted by COVID. A survey yesterday noted that 1 in 10 Black Americans know someone who has died from the virus. 1 in 5 say someone in their household has lost their job due to the virus. The minority population in the U.S. is being decimated. I think that's a fair comment to make. Economically, families being decimated by this. So this is a good question by Sidr Har. How can financial literacy health programs help the chronically poor, the underserved, the underemployed, and underpaid, especially now in the pandemic times?
I'm so glad you asked that question. The answer is financial literacy cannot help, and that is not the problem. Study after study after study will tell you that financial education doesn't really make a difference. It barely provides any knowledge gain. It certainly doesn't lead to behavior change. And moreover, and I want to tie this back to where Sam started with the fact that there's extreme inequity in the way this virus is impacting people in this country. If you think about why that is, it's not about because people don't know. Like, everyone knows it's important to save. Everyone knows that. But it's hard to do. It's hard to do for people who have a lot of money.
Amen.
I actually think that people who have the least money are the smartest financially, because they know how to actually make their money last. They have to, budget to the penny. So I think it's much more structural. When a week or two ago, when the Sun-Times here in Chicago ran the article that said 72% of the COVID deaths in Chicago were among African Americans, but the city's population of African Americans is only about a third. I've been just angry about that ever since. And I recently wrote a letter to our network members, the Financial Health Network's membership of about 160 plus companies, in which I said, our mission is about financial health for all. For all. And if we're not disaggregating our own data now to understand how this crisis is differently affecting our customers, and then taking action to make sure that the people who the aid isn't helping or who need more, if we don't work to figure out how we're going to help them right now, we are going to inadvertently deepen the inequities that already exist in society. Right? So poor people are the people that we're sending out to go stock our shelves and drive our groceries or our restaurant orders home to us. They don't have the ability to do that work from home. They often have to take public transportation to get to their job, which is, makes it more likely that they'll contract the disease. They're less likely to have health insurance. They're more likely to have the underlying conditions that make COVID a killer. So I could go on. But these are things that have taken place over decades, if not generations. And I don't mean to paint such a bleak picture. I do think we have a role to play, and there are things we can be doing now. In the immediate aftermath of the, oh my gosh, here's this pandemic, I've been amazed at the things that financial services companies have done. So many great things have been done, but we did them in a blanket way. Like, let's, as quickly as we can, take some action. Now that we've taken that first set of actions, now is the time to actually go look at your data. Who among your customers is really hurting? What you've done so far isn't enough. They've got bigger problems. Who is that? Let's go now use a scalpel and think about what we can do for those folks. That's the next thing we all need to do.
So Kurt from Tab Bank just said, okay, have Jennifer on again. We have to talk about this more. We do. I agree. So Jen, we will have you on. Because we started a little late, guys, I'm going to go a little late, if that's all right with everybody. I know it's 11 o'clock. I'm supposed to be in a management meeting. Screw it. Let's go at least another 5, Jen. We had John Hope Bryant on earlier from Promise Homes, from Operation Hope, and he talked about at length, gave a history lesson on the whole impact on the minority population as a whole, right? I love how John puts it. It's his Black, Latino, white, all of his brothers, right, being in this together. And I agree. The one thing that has become glaringly apparent through this has been the wealth gap that is consistently growing in the U.S. Right? We've seen this with the PPP loans. Right? Article after article, talking about different treatments larger banks have given in private wealth and everything else for the folks that got loans. And that is reality. And it is. I mean, that is reality. Sad statistics. 2 weeks ago, it was reported that every single death in St. Louis was by somebody who was Black, attributed to COVID. That was 2 weeks ago. So yes, the disparity is real. Unfortunately, I will give you a prediction. People are asking me what we're going to see over the next couple of weeks per tale. I would say that we're going to see the impact of COVID moving more and more from the urban centers and into rural centers, which is slightly less obvious. My daughter's a nurse. I have a lot of daughters. I keep talking about my daughters. My second oldest daughter's a nurse in South Carolina, Greenville, Spartanburg area. She's seen 15 COVID patients so far. The thing is, though, they don't stay in Greenville, Spartanburg, right? They're moved to hospitals which are equipped to take care of this. They diagnose there, then as immediately, as fast as they can, they're moved on. So the numbers tend to get, the data, as you say, Jen, gets impacted, right? You're like, well, these rural areas aren't being impacted. And you're like, well, they're not, because the people are being seen in these urban hospitals.
Well, and Sam, you have a global audience, and obviously we've been really focusing on what's going on here in America, but this is now starting to show up in developing countries around the world. And wash your hands. Well, that assumes you got water.
Thank you. The things we take for granted, and let's take one step back, right? In the U.S., we're asking people to stay home. In New York, it probably sucks. I'm staying home in Florida. For me to stay home, come on, right? It hasn't been that horrible. I know my family's ready for me to get on the road, as they told me. Well, don't you have somewhere you can go? But we're asking people to stay home. Help flatten the curve. But on the other side of that, we need folks like Jen. We need folks like Jane Barrett, Kurt at Tab Bank, Jill Castilla. We need folks like Mark Cuban, who I think has actually raised a lot of interesting questions about what we can do, and others to step in and advise here. It's going to take, what's that quote? It takes a village to raise somebody. This is going to take a nation to actually step up across the piece. And that's what I would encourage everybody to do. Jen, we're going to have you on again. Screw it. This went by way too fast.
That was fun.
Will be. Yeah, you'll be back
I'm sorry,
on.
I feel like I'm kind of a downer, but you got to speak the truth.
The thing is, she's really not. I love Jen. She's a lot of fun. Best place to get pizza in Chicago, Jen. There you go. What's the best place?
Oh gosh, there is no good place to get New York style pizza in Chicago.
Oh God, you bombed that question.
I love deep dish, but I only eat it when I've got tourists in town.
That's such a horrible answer.
But the best place to get deep dish in Chicago is Nancy's Pizza on Broadway in Lakeview.
There you go, everybody. All right, Jen, where's the best place for folks, one, to get in contact with you and to learn more about the Financial Health Network?
Thanks. Our website is finhealthnetwork.org. Lots of resources there. You can get in touch with me there. My email is easy. It's jtescher@finhealthnetwork.org. Would love to talk to you.
Yeah, please reach out, folks. She will definitely talk with you. As for me, Sam Mall, you know what it is, Twitter. Tomorrow, I'm joined by John Wash from Kasasa. For those that know John, please pray for me all night, because the sarcasm and shit I'm going to catch tomorrow from John is going to be through the roof. And Jen was nice to me. John won't be. So tomorrow's going to be rough. It just is. Everybody, thanks for joining. Great questions. Jen, you'll be on again. Okay.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. And there's like